We're just going to talk to each other.
Am I looking at you or am I looking at the camera?
Both.
Alrighty.
Whatever's natural.
It don't really matter too much.
No, whatever's natural.
Okay.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matrix Mondays. We have a special Matrix Mondays today. We have MLS Project Manager Nathan Goble here with us today. We are going to be doing questions and answers with him. So as you start connecting, add your questions in. And I'll be checking to see what your questions are, and then we'll address them here live. So welcome, Nathan. If you could tell us first a little bit about yourself.
I'm the project manager for the MLS. I've been with HAR for just over 15 years. I work on the software development and enhancements for the MLS and systems integrations of third-party applications like Transaction Desk, Zip Forms, Cloud CMA, and any other third party that we agree to license with. I'm normally the person that will help make that happen with the third party.
Awesome. Okay, so I feel like we could probably start with maybe the most common question you get, which is, why did we get rid of our previous platforms?
Well, we got rid of Tempo because we'd been on it for over 15 years, and we were the last MLS in the country to be operating on the Tempo system. It was no longer supported by our vendor, and so we had no choice but to switch off of Tempo. As far as Fusion goes, it's Flash-based, and the problem with Flash is that it's not supported by any of the iOS devices that are out there, and system browsers are slowly dropping support. In fact, Adobe is dropping support for Flash entirely by 2020. So that is why Fusion is gone.
So this is like a global internet change, really, that's going on.
It's a huge shift.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. So why did we pick Matrix as our platform of choice?
Well, Matrix was our platform of choice because that's the platform our vendor supports. CoreLogic, their primary software is Matrix. It is used by 700,000 realtors across the country. Every market that CoreLogic is in, it's Matrix. Now that everyone's on Matrix, this gives them one system to support as opposed to 3 or 5 that they used to support several years ago.
Right, so it streamlines really
Correct.
for them.
Absolutely.
It probably ends up being a better product in the long run.
In the long run, there should be a lot of major benefits that we see from all of their engineers and developers and designers working on one system instead of being fragmented.
Okay, great. Is Matrix customizable?
Matrix is highly customizable, and we are open to our members' feedback to see where we can take it. Okay. You know, when we got Tempo was a very bare bones product, and over the course of 15 years, we made it what our members loved. And this is the same thing I want to do with Matrix. We're starting out with what we have. We've made improvements to it. During the beta that was from February to November last year, we made over 200 changes based on member feedback as they used the system. We continue to make changes to that system based on more member feedback that we received.
So 200 changes, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
At least. What were some of those changes?
Well,
maybe the big ones.
We changed the quick search. The initial search feature was the classic search, and a lot of members, you know, were complaining about having trouble finding fields. So we redesigned the search form so that it would be easily to identify the main fields that they use. We changed some of the functionality regarding how the fields search. So some of the searches didn't have wildcards automatically applied to the end, and our members brought that to our attention. So we changed it so that when you search for a subdivision, if you type in just a subdivision name, you get any of the variant of it as opposed to just exactly that. We also made the property archive report as a result of that. The base property archive report in Matrix was just a spreadsheet that just had row, 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 and it didn't show you who the buyer's agent was, and that wasn't clickable to show you their information, so you could ask them what happened on a contract when it fell through, like Tempo had.
That's great, because we're used to more information,
Absolutely.
right? So it would be terrible if we lost information.
It would have been a drawback.
That's great that we can adjust that stuff and customize that stuff. Also, the subdivision with those wildcards, you know, that's something that's, you know, if I were to put in Magnolia Creek, right, but I don't put section, what have you. I mean, it wouldn't return anything.
That would not have returned anything.
That would not be good. What is your favorite thing about Matrix? I mean, I feel like you and I are both kind of techie people.
Sure,
we get excited about things that people might not get excited about. But what are maybe just one of your favorite features or some of your favorite things about Matrix?
Recent searches is been one of my favorite features. In the quality assurance department, one of our long-standing issues is our members would call and say they're having an issue with the search not generating the right results. And with the new recent searches, we can actually log in as that member, and we can go click on the recent searches, ask them which recent search they were having a problem with, and then we can actually tell them either what they did wrong and help them fix that, or identify a possible system issue and get that addressed as well. I like it personally because it saves my last 50 searches, and I'm able to quickly see which search it was I ran, and I can pull that back up with the results that it was at that time. And if I want to make changes to it at that point, including the map, then I can. Mm-hmm. The other area that I like in Matrix is the new stats section. In Tempo, the stats was just a very raw-based, spit out, numbers for the MLS areas, and that was it. Inside Matrix, it's customizable. You can even save presets. You can make graphs out of it, and then you can even save them so that they're on your home page, and you can instantly access them every time you log in at any time.
That's really great. Once a month, HAR puts out the MLS press release, and it's really just an overview of Houston market, right? Mm-hmm. So those stats, I mean, you can really get in there and just dial down,
all the way down to subdivision,
the area that I work, or even just this one subdivision that I want to focus on. So that's awesome. What about data input sheets? Are those in Matrix yet?
Well, they took longer than expected to redesign. We hadn't redesigned the data input sheets in 15 years since we launched Tempo, and so we can say today that they are in Transaction Desk, they're in Dot Loop, they are in our Forms Manager, and they're currently in final testing for Zip Forms. We expect with Zip Forms to launch those in the next 2 weeks, and we'll put out an announcement for our members that use Zip Forms. We'll make sure they're aware as soon as that has gone live.
That's great. How would you recommend that maybe a new agent who's just coming in get trained on Matrix?
No, I would have to recommend hands-on. I'm a hands-on learner. I learn by doing, and I would encourage that. Now, that's only if time permits. I see our schedule is constantly filling up, and sometimes it's not in a good location for you.
Right.
So if time is of the essence, I would recommend going to hr.com/matrix, go into the video tutorials, and watching any one of the videos. I believe that you've produced almost all of them that range from 30 seconds to 2.5 hours. So you've got your short and long that you can do based on your needs. Yeah,
there actually is a full-length class.
Right.
Last year, the Matrix classes were 4 years long now, or 4 years.
That would be
4 hours long, but now we have 2 3-hour classes, so we can focus a little bit more. But yeah, there is a whole class on there from last year. Okay, so are there any changes that we can expect in the future? Is there anything coming that we should be aware of? Or?
Well, there's always going to be things coming,
right?
And that's just like with Tempo, we never stopped adding things, never stopped making changes. There haven't been too many changes here lately because we've been in basically stability mode, making sure everything worked right, making sure the system didn't crash, making sure all of those things that our members are used to continue to be used to in Matrix, because that's paramount.
Yeah.
But going forward, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is Transaction Desk's ability to auto-upload a listing from a data input sheet. So you would fill out your data input form in single family in Transaction Desk, and there will be an option to push it into Matrix, and it would create a new and complete listing directly from the data input sheet. And then you wouldn't have to do the double entry that you're used to doing right now.
Right.
Many offices that use data input sheets will fill out a data input sheet and then turn it in, and then the administrator or themselves will turn around and key in everything that they just typed up on the data input sheet.
Right.
And that can be cumbersome.
Yeah, absolutely. Double work, right?
And we've begun testing on that right now. So single family, we expect probably in the next month or 2.
That's great.
And then after that, we have to test each property class individually until we have all 7 of them live.
So is there like a goal end date to have everything?
Well, depending on how long testing goes for single family, that's the most important one. It's also the most difficult one.
Okay.
It's 85% of our listings tend to reside in single family, and we want to make sure that that's right. And you got to make sure all the business rules when you push things through are proper. You don't want to break a listing by pushing it from one system to another.
Sure.
Once we have that, then we can streamline. And so by the time we get to, say, lots, we can probably turn around lots in a week.
Okay.
Once we're there, I would hope that by the end of summer, based on how testing goes, that we would have everything done.
That's great.
Another feature that we are looking forward to is team management. So right now, there's teams inside Matrix, and that's you go to settings and you can add a team member and you can have them work as you, but it doesn't do anything else beyond that. So there's no way to have it search for teams. There's no way to see teams on the listing. There's certainly no way to see teams on HR.com if that is something that the board decides to do.
Okay.
With this change we're making, we'll actually make teams available as actual information that can be put on a listing and can be seen. So those would be a team leader, but there would also possibly be a team name that could be displayed.
Oh, wow.
And then their agents could all be registered under that team.
That's great.
And we've started building that right now. So we don't have an ETA yet, but we've begun the process to get that going.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, already in another edition that we just didn't have before. So
Exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Well, our annual school boundary updates are currently underway. So the 2018-2019 school boundaries, we're drawing them right now. We expect to submit the data in the next couple weeks. So we will have updated school boundaries hopefully by the end of the second quarter. The only problem we face right now is what HISD is going to do. Again, there's that ongoing problem with the 10 schools and whether they're going to be open or not. We will be, of course, waiting to see what happens there and update as quickly as possible based on those changes.
Good. Okay.
The update feature that we're building, we've been wanting this for a long time, is the ability to not have to leave the HR app and update the price and update the status of a listing, so that you could be with your client and they tell you that they want the price changed, then you can pull out your phone and you can pull out the app and very easily in an interface optimized for the phone, change the price right there without having to go into Matrix.
Okay.
We're working on being able to do that for status changes as well as the price, and I think remarks at this time. There'll be some other features that Taki and his team are working on to be able to update photos from the app, which is really exciting stuff they're working on.
That is really, I mean, could you imagine you're just there standing there talking to your client, let me just change the price really quick. That's awesome. All right, did you have anything else that is coming that we should know about?
One last thing is a thing called Matrix 360.
Okay.
And I know that some Austin agents may have already heard about it because they're a beta client for it right now. Realist is eventually going to get phased out. Yeah. And not as so much as going away, and more that it's going to become a part of Matrix. And that's where the Matrix 360 is, the marrying of listing MLS data and tax data into one system. And the whole point of that is, just like with Fusion, Realist is Flash-based.
Okay.
And that's a problem because, as I said, they're going away in 2020. So CoreLogic has taken the initiative to start phasing out Realist and making it a part of Matrix, which doesn't use Flash anywhere in its system. And so we should see that later this year. We should start seeing the beginning of the integration of tax inside of the MLS, and we'll have more information as that becomes available.
Okay, that's awesome. Just one streamlined MLS, tax data included.
One place.
That's a one-stop shop, right?
It's much better than last year where they had 4 places to look for things.
Yes, definitely streamlined. So let's see if we have any questions from our members here. Maria asked, when will we have a reverse search?
Reverse prospect search. I'm believing that's what she's referring to. I would recommend she reaches out to the MLS advisory group and see about that feature. That requires the board to approve a change like that feature. Okay. In previous reviews, we've never made that change. It can be a positive feature, but it can also be a negative feature. Okay. So it's just something that has to be weighed by the board.
I actually don't even see any other questions. The Noel group said good information about the stats section. I just love that stats section. So
it's made my life a lot easier. Yeah. In past years, we would have members who needed stats breakdowns of certain markets or certain areas, and I would do it for them because it was so cumbersome in tempo. You had to export the data, put it into Excel, and then know how to do formulas inside of Excel to get what you're looking for. In Matrix, you put in the criteria and you hit generate, and it does it for you. And you get it as a chart, and you get it as granular information that you can then export if you want to. That's a time saver, as far as I'm concerned.
And you don't have to take an Excel class to learn how to pull your stats.
No, you don't, and you shouldn't have to.
Natalie Kelleher said she said good morning. She's loving Matrix. That's awesome to hear.
Thank you.
Someone did ask, if Realist is being phased out, can we pull tax data for farming in Matrix?
You will be able to pull tax data for farming in Matrix. There will be similar limitations as far as the exporting of data from the tax inside Matrix. It will still be limited to 10,000. But if you're creating mailing labels from the tax inside Matrix 360, from what I understand in our demonstration we received last week, there will not be a limit on creating mailing labels.
Okay.
So to just be the exporting of the raw tax information that would still be at the 10,000 mark, just like Realist is.
That's great. Awesome. How do we search for unimproved lots and or see them in nearby searches? So I think that's kind of a app question too with nearby searches there, but
yeah, nearby searches of course is in the app. I don't know if we have the field in there. I would recommend if the field is used is the contract type.
Okay.
In lots, there's a contract type that will have unimproved property or improved property, and that's supposed to be indicative of whether there's been improvements on the property or not.
Okay.
If that field's not on the app, which I will review after this session,
okay,
we can make a suggestion to our technology team to see about implementing that in the app.
Okay. So Jane said, I know we have our saved searches. When we open it again, does it update? So I think she's saying, like, does it revise or research, I guess. Run the search again.
It should always be returning the live results.
The live results. So if you save a search.
You should see, if you see a counter, that'll tell you how many there were at the time that the search was run, but if you pull it back up, it should show the refreshed results for you. That way you can see if there's a difference.
Yeah.
But the main thing I'm looking for when I'm using that for at least for customer support is when you have 0. Because that's something's wrong with that search.
Okay. So if you're returning 0 results.
Right. That's normally why we get a call in the quality assurance department. Is you're running a search, you know that should work, but it's getting 0 results.
Right.
That's what we like to analyze and turn that 0 into the number you're looking for.
And then we can actually go into recent searches and see.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Julie asked, when is mud info going to be updated next? Or maybe I'm looking for it incorrectly. One chart shows 2016 info.
All right. So that's been a victim of the Matrix project this year. We have updated the mud data to 2017. So if you click on a link inside Realist Tax right now and you pull up the mud data from that link, that is 2017 data. We updated that last week.
Okay.
The PDF that many members may be used to using, we're going to rebuild at least one more time.
Okay.
And then that'll be updated with 2017 information as well. I should hopefully be able to have that done by tomorrow. But again, if you click on the link inside Realist, that should take you to that MUD's information, and that information is 2017. The big change we're making this year is we're automating the update of MUD data. In previous years, we had to manually update that information. So what we've done this year is we've worked with the Keys group to automate the process so that it becomes a quarterly update, and there's never any period of time or long period of time where we're showing last year's information instead of this year's information.
Okay.
And that'll also update the MUD bonds as the MUD bonds update. So as a MUD draws on it, you'll actually get the refreshed amount normally within 3 to 5 months of them making that draw. In previous years, of course, it was just we updated once a year, and that was it. And so those MUD numbers may have changed in the time since we last did our survey. You wouldn't know that until the following year.
Okay, that's great. So Adam asked, when will the texting app be updated?
Texting app will be updated. I'm not sure I followed that question.
He might be Adam, if you don't mind just rewording that for us a little bit so we know what you're referring to. I think he probably means when you click text listings.
Right.
But I'm not sure if there's what update needs to be there. When will we be able to see all the contacts in the mobile app?
We're working on that. There's a lot of projects that we talk about, and then there's a couple projects that we don't talk about because we aren't as far as we want to be to have confidence in discussion yet. But we have heard our members' requests for what I call and what we're calling a universal contact database, which would be the marriage of your HAR.com contacts and your MLS contacts, so that you have one in one place. And we understand that right now, if you are a high producer, you're having to make sure that you're copying from one place to the other and back and forth all the time. And wouldn't it be great if you could just enter in one area and it's in another automatically or there's one universal place that you can go to manage all those contacts. And we want to get there. We will get there. Just no ATA at this time.
Yeah. So the marriage is coming, but we're still engaged, right?
Correct. We are engaged to be married to that.
We're
to that
engaged
change.
to be married.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't realize that, you know, the HAR tools, the app, the website, that's, you know, in-house. Matrix is CoreLogic, which is a third-party company. So it is a marriage of getting those two companies to.
And historically, companies don't like to share data with each other, even when they're entered into licenses with each other.
Right.
You know, it's kind of it's my data. It's not, but you have access to it just in certain ways. We're looking to change that.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I mean, really, it's necessary. There was one question. There it goes. So Bren asked, by the way, Julie said the link is good, the one for the mud in Matrix. So she said, love Matrix.
Thank you for checking.
So Bren asked, was the field flooded and Harvey removed? Data is inconsistent when I run the search using this field.
I would stop using that field immediately. The field was removed on January 1st as a part of the board of directors approval motion back in September after Harvey. That was to have the field in there as a temporary stopgap to help people identify high and dry properties while the area worked to recover. It has been reviewed since then and determined that the fields will not be restored and not added back. So the only listings you should return that have flooded during Harvey or not flooded during Harvey is a listing that was last updated in December.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's almost 5 months out of date as far as those listings go. We just have not removed it from the database, and there's a quirk in Matrix where if you've added a field to your additional fields at the bottom and we remove the field, but we don't completely delete the field, you still have access to it.
So you can search by it.
You can search by it, but it's not returning new results, and it won't.
So really, we should just stop. I mean, I believe too on the edit forms, it's not there. It's not an option.
It was removed in all places on January 1st.
Yeah. So okay. So we should just stop using that field then. Alrighty. Christy Borden said, "Thank you, HAR staff, for all you do."
Thank you, Christy.
It's our pleasure, Christy, and thanks for watching us this morning. How to find foreclosure homes? How do you find foreclosures? That's just using disclosures.
Yeah, you would use the field disclosures with the value foreclosure that's available in every property type.
Okay. Dean was asking, when will the bedroom description be improved? It's hard to search for a home with 2 bedrooms down, like we were able to in the past. It was mandatory, but now it's not.
We are working to rectify that. We are working to make that business rule mandatory to force identification and then send out a email to all affected agents who have not identified the floor of their property to update the floor of their property so that we can get the data you're referring to, Dean. He's been great about keeping us on getting that done.
Oh, so we know Dean.
Yes.
Hi, Dean. Yeah, no, I mean it's important, but it's a tough one for us because
because of the way it changed. I mean, the room structure in Matrix is completely different than the room structure inside Tempo, and trying to conform to that, there is the change in not wanting to change versus moving towards what we're trying to get to. And there's a few bumps in the road, and we're still working through that. And we will get it fixed.
Yeah.
And we will make it better.
Also, I mean, there's a bit of a handicap too, isn't there? When like if a listing agent doesn't input it correctly, or they just give us minimal data.
Well, that's always been the problem with a user entry system. The user entry system is only as good as the agent who puts in the least amount of information. And you can make more fields required, and that helps. And you can put in business rules to force conditional fields to have information based on other fields, and that helps. But at some point, you can't make them all required.
Right.
And then that's where they stop. And you'll see, that's why almost every field that's on the quick single-family search form is a required field. And the reason we do that is so that you can almost guarantee results with every search that you run, as opposed to selecting a field that may not be required, like interior features.
Right.
And some people just don't select anything.
Right.
Even though they have several of the features that are in that field, they left it blank because they didn't take the time.
I need that island kitchen.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So Sandra asked, is there any search that helps my buyer find non-flooded properties?
Well, if you want to try and take a stab at finding not flooded properties, you could always do a wildcard public remarks or agent remarks search. Do asterisk not flooded asterisk with public or agent remarks, and that would look for the keywords not flooded anywhere within the remarks.
Okay.
And that might be the best way to try and do that.
Right. So what is the time frame criteria for new DOM? How long does it have to be off market before it doesn't appear on the CDOM?
Okay, for the CDOM to reset, that's a good question.
Yeah.
CDOM, cumulative days on market, it resets under two conditions. One, the previous listing sold, which is the easy one to understand. The second one is that it was off market for 183 consecutive days, which is 6 months or half a year. Once it hits that, then it resets completely. Unless if it doesn't, then it continues to accrue between listings until one of those two conditions is satisfied.
Okay, that makes sense. So Adam did follow up about the texting. He said texting app is not functional. You cannot edit the text. Can listings be set on text alerts?
So texting listings, this is where the marriage of Matrix and HR.com come into play. Text listings is an HR.com feature, and it is effectively a bot that is sending that text. So there is no way to really revise that text. I don't think there's a text box inside that text listing. So I'll take a look. But the best thing I would recommend doing if you're using the test listings and you want to be able to modify is text it to yourself and then copy the link that's inside that and then blast it out through your own phone with your own number, because as it being a bot, it's using a bot phone number as well.
Right.
So the client can't reply to the text and say anything, or they will, and nothing happens with it.
Right. They're wondering, why haven't they replied to me? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so best practice, text it to yourself and then forward it to.
At this time, we have no plans to change that feature. I'm not sure. That's a technology question.
Okay. So something we can follow up on a later time too. Ray just has a suggestion here. Please add garage field to rental searches.
As a default field?
I guess as a default field. I mean, we could definitely, it's one that you can add as an additional field.
You can add it as an additional field.
Sure. So that's something to consider, maybe adding it as a default part of the form.
We can look at that.
Shannon said this is great info for agents. Shannon Register.
Thank you, Shannon.
Adam said thanks for the tip about texting. So we do have a question here. Are flood zones updated after Harvey?
Well, I mean, that's a question for FEMA, to be perfectly fair. Our maps link directly to what FEMA makes available to the public. So you can, I think, control click on a color shaded area on the map, and it will tell you the flood panel and the flood panel update date. And you'll notice that the majority of the flood panels are before 2017. Yeah. FEMA, I believe, is revising those. I'm not sure if they're made available yet, but we will continue to monitor that. And if we can see that they've been updated for the entire Houston area, we can certainly put a message out about that.
Okay. Rodney Hamp is asking, does other real estate websites, or do other real estate websites get the data feed showing CDOM such as Zillow and Trulia?
No.
No, they don't. Okay. Love the overlays, Julie said.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they're saying they use, the Knoll group saying that's how they use the text field too. So the best practice really with text listings, text it to yourself, forward it. So I don't see any other questions coming through right now. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, I think I got everything out in the beginning.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys. If you do have more questions, or you're watching this after we've presented it live, add your questions to the comment section of this video, and we'll pay attention to those questions. We'll keep answering them. If it's something I can answer, I'll answer quickly. But if not, I'll always defer it to Nathan because he knows everything. So thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next Monday with another Matrix Mondays. And we'll be back to screen sharing next week, so we'll be looking at Matrix again next week. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay. We didn't want to have to do the awkward.
Hey, it went exactly 30 minutes.